Every manager has an agenda. What's yours? Specifically, what's your agenda for your first team meeting? Welcome to the channel Leadership with Mike. On this channel, I help new managers become better leaders, and I do that with no nonsense sense, if that makes any sense. Okay, so you have your first team meeting. What are you going to say? Like, what's your plan? What's the agenda for the meeting? You don't have to answer that because that is what this video is all about. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This first part of the agenda, I absolutely hate. Icebreakers. Man, they can be so cheesy. I try to have fun with them, and sometimes you got to do it because you need to know who you're working with and what they're about. So you need to have an idea of what is the icebreaker going to be. How are you going to get to know your new team? Are you doing a roundtable? Are you asking people what their favorite fruit is? Are you going to ask them, what's one thing that you're excited about, whether it be professionally or personally? I don't know if you can tell, but I really hate them. But there's huge benefits, which is why they need to be on the agenda. Moving past that awkwardness, ask your team, what is it that you as a manager can provide them? Specifically, how can you help their workday? How can you help their work process? What can be done to eliminate some red tape or little wins that you could help them with? This is very much showing that you are in service to them. A lot of people are still under the impression that managers tell people what to do. And if you want to get the most out of your team, you need to ask them what they need you to do. How can you help them? This is also very humbling. You don't come in guns a-blazing, I'm changing this and we're going to start doing that. You don't know that much. You need to just calm down and figure out what your team needs. And the best way to do that is to ask them. Now, in your first team meeting, you're going to get a few people that will have some things to say, but not everybody will be speaking up. And that's because not everybody is comfortable speaking up in team meetings. And some people think that they can hide behind other people. So as a bonus tip, in addition to the team meetings, you're going to have individual meetings. And this is a question you want to bring up again. How can I help you with your job? How can I help you complete tasks easier? Or whatever it might be. How can I, as a manager, help you? Next, what's the best way for your team to communicate? How's your team communicating now? Are they using Slack? Are we doing Zoom calls? Are we having one-on-one meetings? Are emails, text messages? Like, how is the team operating now? And assuming that that's okay and it's working for the team, don't come in and fix it, but just get on board so that you are understanding how your team is already communicating. And then you can jump in and make yourself comfortable with that format. Now, before we get into the next one, I want to ask, have you picked up my free ebook of the 14 things that you need to know before you start managing? If you haven't, link in the description and it'll set you up. The next thing you want to do is you want to set expectations. But this is a two-way street. You want to be able to set your expectations. But you also want to know what is your staff's or your team's expectations of you. It kind of ties into the how you can help them, but what do they expect from you? Give them time to answer. Make sure that you, lead with asking them what their expectations are of you, and then give them time to think. And while they're thinking, you can then explain what your expectations are of them, how you expect the day-to-day to go, how you expect to be included on certain things, or how you expect your team to make decisions without your input. All these things can be discussed because you're still learning each other. You're learning about each other. So what can I expect? What can you expect? Finally, you always want to make sure you have time for questions. Are you going to get a ton? Maybe, maybe not. but make sure there's an opportunity for anybody on the team that wants to ask a question, whether it be personal, whether it be professional, whether it be about the job at hand. Let's get into it. Let's get to know a little bit more about each other. Let's start off on the right foot by being open and honest, showing that you're trustworthy, showing that you respect them and their time, showing that you are there. There's nothing worse than a new manager who just comes in, lays down the law, shuts the door and leaves. Give people the opportunity to have questions. I hope that's helped you with your first team meeting agenda. And assuming it has, watch this video about having and hosting the first team meeting. I'm going to grab my coffee and I'll see you in the next one.